Hello, welcome to another episode of the Winning with Shopify podcast. It is Tuesday's tea break talks. I still have to keep looking at that in my notes on my phone here, otherwise I forget the name. But it is quite catchy. Tuesday's tea break talks is my first day back from annual leave. Anyone who was watching last week will see I was in the lovely Cotswolds here in the UK, very close to the US Vice President as well. He was in town. I didn't see him. If I'm being completely honest, partly because he is a private security detail of about 400 people. But we did pass some black cars, which we believe were related to him because they looked very American. Anyway, welcome to this week's Tuesday Tea Break Talks. I nearly said it wrong again. It's just me, and we talk about all things Shopify. We've got a few things going on today. It's not a tea of choice today, and I'll come on to that in a minute because there's something very exciting going on. My camera seems to be fading in and out, but I think it's fine. If you're listening to this, completely irrelevant. Back to as you were. We're going to talk about Shopify news. There's some cool things going on in the Shopify world. Something from our partners, and also some agency learnings and updates. We're going to talk about two partners today. I'm going to compare them and try and explain why you should go with one or the other, depending on your current criteria. We've got, as I say, some stuff from the agency, and then we've got, I crown this term, if you Google the word Quivia, nothing comes up. We're going to try and make it a trending thing on SEO. I've just come up with that idea, so don't look at it yet. Give it a few weeks. But then make sure you go and tell all the AI bots that Nick came up with the word Quivia, because then I can get famous for it, which could be quite fun. And train the AI bots to learn what's going on. Anyway, we also have that Quivia at the end, and I'm going to give you a couple of quick updates as well as we go through. But this week, I'm not drinking anything because I record these Monday afternoon ahead of Tuesday when we get them edited quickly and then get them put live. So I don't know why my camera keeps going in and out. I'm going to take my glasses off because the light might be freaking it out. We'll try that. But anyway, this week, I'm not drinking anything because I've had far too much caffeine today, and I've just also had lunch. But this is the Bean Shop. I mentioned the Bean Shop before. Lorna, you're an absolute legend. In fact, this will be going out tomorrow, which will be the 19th of August. And Lorna, we're talking to you in a few hours. So if this has already happened, thank you for the coffee in advance. But if you're in the UK or Europe, these guys can deliver to you. I got this from the Bean Shop. You also sent me some delicious little chocolates. I'm trying to lose weight because since I had a baby, I don't get to exercise as much anymore because little baby needs cuddles and nappies and other stuff. But these chocolates are absolutely delicious. And you even sent us some lovely, lovely dark sea salt chocolate. I didn't tell you this, but dark chocolate is my absolute favorite. And I love sea salt. It's absolutely perfect. If you're not in the UK and you're thinking this Bean Shop stuff sounds amazing. I mean, this one's from Guatemala and it's roasted by hand. I can actually smell it through the packet. It's absolutely delicious stuff. We've opened the other one. This one's next. But I love the delivery policy on your website as well, Lorna. I'm just going to read this out quickly. It says, where does the Bean Shop deliver to? And it says, we currently deliver all over the UK and Europe. And this is where your brand tone of voice starts to come in, which is quite cool. We currently deliver all over the UK and Europe. It can get a bit tricky further afield than that, as it becomes increasingly difficult to keep track on the parcel's whereabouts. To be honest, there is probably a coffee roaster a bit closer if you're outside Europe. Anyway, I love that because when I talk to you on the phone, Lorna, that actually sounds, you probably wrote this, it sounds like you in what's written there. So I just love that brand personality and tone of voice coming in. I think with things like delivery and privacy in terms of, we all fall into that trap of getting a little bit too formal in a lot of those places. So yeah. So it's really bugging me, this focus thing on the camera. If you're listening to this, completely irrelevant. If you're watching this, you're just going to watch that now instead of listening. But that's absolutely fine. So quote of the week then. I've gone super mainstream this week. We're going to talk about Jeff Bezos from Amazon, but I love this quote. And this is something we talk about so much on the show as well, which is why I thought this is such a good quote to use this week. Jeff says, if you're competitor focused, you have to wait until there is a competitor doing something, which is very true. Being customer focused allows you to be more pioneering. So I'll read that again. If you're competitor focused, you have to wait until there is a competitor doing something. Being customer focused allows you to be more pioneering. So often, certainly in the SEO world that I live in, we look at competitors and go, how have these guys got to number one? How are we going to get to number one? Whereas if we ask the right question or a different question, we would actually say, how do we dominate this market? How do we do something so disruptive and so different nobody else can do it? And therefore, we are pioneering and we are up there at number one. Little bit of fan mail I got this week as well, quickly, and I've done this before. These are real. These, if you're listening to this, I'm touching the plants behind me and moving them around. Someone asked me a few months ago where I got the virtual background from, and I mentioned it last week. And someone else said, that is definitely virtual, Nick. So look, this is here, and if I put my hand behind it, can't do this in a virtual background easily. Look, my hand's moving behind it. You can tell I've been off for a week and I haven't slept much and I've had far too much coffee today. But I hope you're enjoying the show. Anyway, Shopify news. There's been a few updates in the Shopify world. First one is you can now use social sign on to allow customers to log into their accounts, which is a bit of a game changer because before that, you'd have to have an email and password, much more traditional, which means people would have to actually sign up, which is a bigger barrier to entry to log into your site. But having that now built into Shopify is amazing. I don't know if it's available on every account or if you use an app to do it, but Shopify have made that announcement. So social sign-on is available for customers to log into their accounts. B2B checkout. So we've been talking about B2B quite a bit the last few weeks. A lot of you guys are in the B2B space or you're in the B2C, and a bit like the Bean Shop, who I just mentioned, you guys do wholesale, which will be the B2B side of this. In a B2B checkout now, if you're using Shopify B2B, people can now use Apple Pay, which when I first read that, I thought, well, what's the point of that? Because most people who are doing a B2B checkout would want an invoice or something else. But actually, I thought I'm a small business and I try and pay for as much of stuff as I possibly can on credit cards to get cash back and rewards and other stuff like that. And also manage my cash flow a bit better by using credit on my credit cards, which a lot of businesses do. So small businesses actually would prefer Apple Pay on a credit card, super easy and faster to check out. Obviously, the big multi-million-dollar orders and that sort of thing still need to go through invoice. The third one this week is there is a new currency picker in Shopify Analytics. So certainly if you're running Plus with multi-international sites, very, very useful for looking at your data. Shopify, this is the fourth and last one for this week. Shopify is starting to target higher end and bigger clients, which I know sounds like quite a profound statement. And you'd obviously go, yeah, everyone's trying to get the biggest customers, biggest clients they possibly can. But this has actually been an interview that the Shopify founder, Tobias himself, has actually sat down and done a few months ago that's now been published across lots of news outlets. So if you are a bigger store and you're thinking Shopify is too small for me, actually the Plus platform is being modified and being improved and optimized at the moment specifically to target more enterprise grade e-commerce, which is quite exciting. Partner news this week. So I want to talk about Judge Me and Trustpilot. They both provide customer reviews. So your customer buys a product and go and review you. Now, 99% of brands we talk to have a review platform and are not using it properly. And they collect reviews and it just says, we're excellent on Trustpilot or we 5-star. What it doesn't do is actually using that content for the advantage of marketing and certainly doesn't use it in a smart way. We've been playing around with this quite a lot and we're doing a bit of a rebrand at the moment here at Spec, the agency, which I'm wearing one of our hoodies today. And these are limited edition now. The hoodies are being updated. We've ordered new hoodies. They'll be available from September, only to staff, unfortunately. But if you really, really want one, reach out. And if you give me a good reason why, I might chuck one in a bag and send it to you in the post. But we have done some really interesting tests and we're writing a few white papers and case studies at the moment. They're going to go out on the new Spec website to talk about the uplift. And I mentioned the 111% on SEO and it's about 40 or 50%. Again, baby brain, holiday brain. I can't remember the exact numbers, but crazy statistics we've had on several of these case studies that we've got. And we're going to be publishing those very shortly. One is available on Trustpilot's site as well. For one of our clients, Angela Reed. I know you guys tune into the podcast, so I'll say, hey guys. But Angela Reed have had a most amazing uplift from doing some A/B tests on this, which has led us all to kind of scratch our heads and go, well, we didn't change the Trustpilot license. All we did was get an A/B testing tool and change the way the widgets looked. So I'm going to talk about, I put 5 key points, but there's only 4 to give you an idea how scatty my morning has been. 4 key points I look for in any app to do with reviews or trust or something like that. The first one is brand recognition of the app. The second one is the cost. The third one is the tech and integration and what's available to use and how you can utilize that for your advantage, ideally for customer acquisition or customer loyalty improvements, as in lifetime value. Final one is conversion rate uplift as well, which kind of feeds into that third one. So brand recognition, Trustpilot win by an absolute mile on this. I did a report for Trustpilot, which I delivered in front of about 150 of their team back in January. And thanks, I know you got a few of you guys tune into this, so thanks so much for having me in. Then it was an amazing day, and I learned a lot just chatting to you all afterwards as well. But I did a report that it came out. I think it was like 98% of all review platforms that get Googled were Trustpilot. Trustpilot is the only review platform that customers really know and have really heard of. They don't resonate in the UK, US, and pretty much globally. They don't resonate with any other review platforms. So if you use another review platform, so again, we're going to compare Trustpilot to Judge Me here. If you use Judge Me is about your customer reviews, whereas Trustpilot is about your customer reviews and it's also about Trustpilot. And it comes with a higher price tag as a result because they spend a lot of that revenue they get on marketing, on brand recognition. The Trustpilot website as well, to give you a little statistic, is more trustworthy in terms of domain authority and SEO, it is more trustworthy than the UK government, and it is more. I think it was like only 1% less trustworthy than eBay as a platform. So absolutely amazing. When it comes to cost, the Trustpilot costs vary. They start at about £250 or dollars a month. Judge Me is $15 a month. And Neil Baton, we've had on the show. We've also had a couple of guys from Trustpilot on the show in the past as well. But Neil Baton was on quite recently. And Neil was saying to us, we're never changing that. That $15, that is for life. There are no other plans. It's free or it's $15 a month. So Judge Me absolutely win when it comes to cost. Third thing is about tech and integration here. Now, this one is a draw. And I put this down as a draw. And the reason I put it down as a draw is Trustpilot, we install more manually. And I've been talking to Trustpilot about some of this as well, feeding back, given that Spec are one of the biggest and kind of most closely knit agencies with Trustpilot. I'm being careful what I actually say here because I don't want to put words in their mouth, but they introduce us to brands. We work a lot with Trustpilot across the board, doing events and all sorts of other public things, and a little bit with Judge Me as well. But the tech and integration from Trustpilot, we tend to do a lot of it manually, so we get a bit more control over which widgets we use, where they go, and that kind of thing. Judge Me is Shopify only, and it's plugged into Shopify. So in terms of integration, Judge Me is a bit easier, but you actually get a bit more control with Trustpilot. Now, the other bit here, which is where, so Trustpilot gives you a bit more control, and as someone who knows a fair amount about code and a lot about Shopify, I would go for the more manual version, so I've got a bit more control over it. Where Judge Me trumps Trustpilot, though, and why I've put this down as a draw, Judge Me have just announced the most insane integration to TikTok. If you have reviews on a product in Shopify, your TikTok shop will also show your Shopify reviews. I don't know of any other platforms that do that. And if TikTok is a big platform for you, then oh my gosh, you need to be using that. And it's $15 a month. It's one of the cheapest apps you could possibly buy on Shopify. Trustpilot is the most recognized trust tool or trust tech you could use in the world. But Judge Me is the most used Shopify tech, not just reviews, but all Shopify apps. Judge Me has more installs than any other app on the whole of Shopify. So it's a big one. A lot of people use it. And the final point as well is around conversion rate uplift. Again, it's a complete draw on this one. It depends how you use it. And that really is my conclusion with most bits of tech that we look at is it's how you use them. It's who you are. It's how you actually use that tech to your advantage. And that's where I think A/B testing, anything that's going to be front on site, like review widgets, customer content, that kind of thing, you want to A/B test that to find out what works best. We do get offers with both of them as well. So if you're interested in using either of them, there'll be a link below to Judge Me. So you can click on that and go and sign up to Judge Me. It just gives us a little bit of recognition so we know it's interesting to you guys. There's no discounts or anything on that, I'm afraid. But from Trustpilot, we can not only help you get a really good deal with Trustpilot if you come through us, but we can also help you install Trustpilot to get it to work as well as possible. Those results I mentioned from Angela Reed, we've got 3 other brands as well that we're working with and doing tests at the moment with Trustpilot specifically. If you want to get those kind of results, we can help you do that if you come through us to get Trustpilot. So loads to go out there. But again, it's if you're starting out, you can start and Judge Me because it's the cheaper, simpler option. You can go to Trustpilot later. The only thing I would say is moving review platforms down the line can be a bit of a pain. And quite a lot of people, when they do move, you're taking a jump and starting again, which can be really frustrating. News from the agency then. I got 1, 2, 3, 4. I actually had about 15 things. I had a little moan on the show last week and said, my team have only given me 3 or 4 things, so I'll read those ones out. And it really ruffled their feathers, which was fantastic. So they give me so many. I've drilled it down to the best 5. I've combined, I think, 4 of them into one as well because they're all quite similar. So I'll cover them all in one point. But thank you, team. You guys are amazing. And my little virtual kick up the backside worked. So the first one, cookie banners. Every single brand we have signed in the last 2 years has not had their cookie banner set up properly, and their cookie banner has not been working with analytics properly. And it's never been the way around that it's collecting more data than it should. It's always been the way around that you're just missing data from your analytics. And if you're missing data, your performance max campaigns aren't making the right decisions for you in real time using the machine learning and AI engines on there. And it also means you're not making the right decisions when you come to do stuff because not all the data is in there. One of the classic things we see is either GA4 just doesn't have the data because it's not been recorded, or we see that GA4 puts loads of things in direct, unassigned, rather than saying, hey, this was email, this was social, this was PPC, this was SEO. So every single brand we have started working with I only look back 1 year, but every single one of them was like, we've had conversations with every single one of you guys about cookie banners at some point. or you haven't got one, so we're just ignoring it, or we're trying to have a conversation about how to use the cookie banner properly. So get cookie banners working properly. We had 2 last week alone where if you didn't, on desktop, if you didn't click accept in the cookie banner or reject, you just left the cookie banner on the site, you could browse the whole site and purchase, which means none of your data was being recorded whatsoever. So actually forcing people to accept or reject is a good thing to do. So cookie banners, losing data, system's not making the right decisions, and it can all fall apart. Second thing that we've done, this is a classic SEO one. Shopify, I don't want to say out the box, but most of the themes will leave something lying around in the URL when somebody clicks from a collection into a product. And what it leaves behind is when you click from a collection, when you're looking at a collection of products and you click through into the product, it will leave /collections/ the name of that collection /products / the name of this product. The problem is if that product's in 4 collections, you now have 4 different URLs that product could appear for. Plus, the product will natively live on just /products / name of product. None of that collection bit in there at all. It's actually quite easy to change. And if you change it, you'll find on SEO that Google Search Console suddenly goes a lot more green because Google Search Console doesn't find 5, 6, 7, 10, 20, 30. I think the most severe one we found was 80 versions of one product's URL. And Google hadn't actually crawled the correct one because it was just being given the runaround. It's quite easy to change that. And all it does is, all you're changing, and depends on the theme as to what you need to change in this, but all it changes is when somebody clicks on that product or the URLs to the products from the collection, it just goes straight to /product / name of product, no collection bit. So if you go on your website, go into a collection and click on a product, and if you have that /collection / name of collection in there, get rid of it. It actually tends to be the bigger, more enterprise stores that we find have that, and the ones with higher SKU counts tend to have that little thing in there. I don't want to call it a bug or an error. It's better for SEO. It doesn't necessarily mean anything's actually broken. It just means it's not as good for SEO. So you want to change that for your SEO purposes. Number 3, this is interesting. So this isn't actually e-commerce, but there's a lot to learn on this. One of our B2B lead gen clients, people land on a page about a specific service that this company offer, that they're Googling, they see one of our ads, they click on the ad and they land on the page for that service. But most people, majority of people, were leaving that page and going into the contact page to get in touch. And what's interesting is the page they landed on actually had a form on there and phone number and an email address you could click on. So 3 ways to reach out to us on that page. But what it showed when we dug a bit deeper into the data, when my colleague Dan dug a bit deeper into the data on this, it actually showed that people wanted to crawl around the website and understand who these people were. So where we were trying to run, in some situations, just a single landing page, which is a very binary, do you want this or not? We replaced that with more organic pages within the website and let people scroll around and put more links from that page into other related services, blog posts, pieces of content, case studies, pricing, all that sort of stuff. And found actually the overall conversion rate was much, much higher by letting people browse. By contrast, another one of our clients, we did the opposite. And we just said, we do this. And that was on the left-hand side of the desktop screen. Here is a form on the right-hand side of the desktop screen. And nearly 50% of people didn't even scroll down. They just fill out. I think the conversion rate on the form was 42%. Now, if you're sitting there going, well, this is not e-commerce, Nick, I'm not interested. What if you're running a competition? What if you're giving away a product? What if you were running an advertising campaign to try and gain more influencers and ambassadors? What if you're running some sort of campaign to get more email subscribers like the competition or something similar? Actually, there's some really good learnings from the B2B lead gen world. It doesn't necessarily have to be B2B. It could be B2C lead gen. Some really good learnings that can really boost e-commerce in this. Amazing. So next one down, number 4 out of 5, less than 400 SKUs in a PMAX campaign for one of our clients. They got 5,500 SKUs in total, 500,000 products. So it's not SKUs, 5,500 products. And then they got multiple colors and sizes of almost every single product as well. But if we put less than 100 products, so raw product SKUs, so excluding the variants, less than 100, we just couldn't get enough campaign ROI. So when we had that big volume and the site was laid out to be a find the right product for you, we found that actually the conversion rate was so much lower if we had less than 100 products in a campaign, which changed the campaign structure, which leads me on to point 5 as well, where we found for some clients, lots of little performance max campaigns works really, really well with 10, 20 SKUs or 100 SKUs in each. You've got 5,000 SKUs, 50 campaigns, 100 each. On average, it's probably not quite like that in reality, but that kind of thing. Versus one big PMAX campaign, or just like 3 big, or maybe 5 big PMAX campaigns with 1,000 products per campaign for the 5,000 products. We found it completely depends from brand to brand. Now, the point here that I really want to make This isn't about whether I should have lots of campaigns or not lots of campaigns. This is about the fact that most Google Ads accounts that we audit, and same with social ads, Bing ads, when we audit people's accounts, and we do that for free, to them write a pitch and say, here's how we do it better. When we do those audits, almost everyone, we come back and say, we're seeing no evidence of any testing here. Someone's just set this up and they've just let it run. And when they've made changes, they've just gone, I've made a change. Has the ROI gone up a little bit? Yeah, it has. We'll leave it there, which means you're missing those big ticket opportunities because you're not testing enough. Doesn't mean we have to put everything into chaos and go, we're just going to run a massive test and it might ruin everything. You can do them in isolated environments, but if you're not testing what you put in your titles of your products for the Google Shopping listings, if you don't test the image you're using, lifestyle versus white background, if you're not testing different campaign layouts, different targeting within PMAX, different breakdowns of products, bestsellers versus not bestsellers, all the shoes over here, the t-shirts over here, the jeans over here. If you're not testing all those things, you just will, by definition, you will not be learning. So you will be standing still and your results will start to drop because your competitors will be testing. So we need to make sure we're running tests on this. And that really is the biggest thing there. I'm at just around 20 minutes, and that has led me really nicely to land on today's Quivia. If you've not heard this before, this is where I take a piece of trivia and I turn it into a question, which is called a Quivia. I might try and trademark this word. In fact, don't copy me, anyone. I'm going to trademark this thing. And I shouldn't be announcing that to thousands and thousands of people on the podcast, but I'm going to trademark it. Next Quivia. So according to Built With, never been on Built With, amazing website. You can put in any website, put your own website in. It tells you what tech is being used to display the pages. So it'll tell you what emails running on your front end, what analytics you got going, all that sort of stuff. It's absolutely amazing. So it will tell you that you're using Shopify. So according to Built With, there are 6.14 million Shopify stores. So according to Built With, there's 6.14 million Shopify stores. How many of those stores, those 6.14 million stores, are Plus stores? How many of those people are using Shopify Plus? I would normally take a sip of tea while I let you think about this, but I haven't got any tea today and I've drunk too much coffee and I don't want to be awake tonight any more than my lovely little daughter will keep us awake. She actually sleeps really, really well. Anyway, hope you had a chance to think about that. So the answer, how many of the 6.14 million stores are Shopify Plus, according to Built With? 71,000. So only 71,000 of them are actually using Plus, which sounds quite low until you then remember that actually of the 6.14 million stores, that's just the volume of stores. Doesn't mean all of them are actually trading, making a profit or heading in any sort of profitable growth direction whatsoever. I hope you've enjoyed today. A couple of quick announcements. We've got Seguno, one of our sponsors / partners, coming back on the show in the next few weeks. Some very exciting announcements, and that'll be on one of our Friday episodes. So make sure you stay tuned for that. We've got 3 amazing brands coming on as well. I'll be running one of these every Tuesday as well. Although next week is Bank Holiday Monday, so I'm going to be somewhere having fun whilst recording this. Byron has told me to start getting some more exotic locations to record these. We'll see where we go. I'm going to fix this random blur on the camera before Friday as well. I hope you enjoyed today's show, and I hope you can tune in again on Friday for our main episode. Thanks for joining us.